it. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at Enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome back to the Pulse. I am here at NAGAP with Dr. Chris Lewis, the Director of Grad Programs at the University of Michigan Flint. Good morning, Chris. It's day 2 at NAGAP. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. A little tired because, the day one, you always have that opportunity to go out and have fun with other NAGAP members and for their offsite event that they always have. And I went to that, and then you get home late and don't get as much sleep. But
it was a blast.
It was a lot of fun, and definitely looking forward to the sessions today and opportunities to continue to connect and learn.
There been any sessions you've attended so far that have really stood out or anything you're looking forward to today?
Yesterday there was a great session from Education USA talking about the current atmosphere with international students, and all of our campuses are trying to better understand kind of the best way to be able to work with and support our international populations. So that was really interesting to be able to get a better feel for how they are supporting students across the globe.
Wonderful. Well, spoiler alert, our Pulse Check series in about a month from now, we'll be welcoming Kin Sejpal back to the Pulse, and she's doing 5 episodes on international recruitment from every angle. So listeners, you can look forward to that. But today, Chris and I are actually going to talk about podcasting. Chris, you've got oodles of experience, far more than I do. I'm excited to learn from you in this conversation. Give us a little bit of your background in venturing into podcasting, because I know you do it personally and professionally, right?
I do. I've been podcasting now since about 2014. And I did that initially because of a personal want to be able to work and to share my story as a father. And from there, learned, grew, and continued to want to do more. One of the things, as of right now, I have 5 different shows that I either host or produce. And I have personal ones that I work on. One of my favorites is my Dads with Daughters podcast that I do, and we've been doing for about 4 years now for a 501c3 called Fathering Together that I run. But more recently, at the University of Michigan Flint, we actually started a podcast called Victors in Grad School. And the reason for that really was the fact that we were getting a lot of students that were asking a lot of questions about, is grad school right for me? How do I find success in graduate school? And because of that, I wanted to be able to share the stories of others that had gone to graduate school before them, to talk to them about the success that they found in graduate school, to be able to share that and help others to add some tools to their own toolbox and be able to then allow them to find success sooner if and when they decided to go to graduate school, whether it was at the University of Michigan Flint or not.
That's really terrific. What a resource. Now, you've been doing this, you had told me, since August 2022. What are some of the favorite conversations that you have had in the last couple of years?
I've had some really interesting ones, that one of which was a student that had done their undergraduate work at the University of Michigan, Flint. He was a first-generation college student, had a professor that really engaged him, but also encouraged him to continue his studies in physics and to broaden his wings and go actually overseas to get his doctorate. So he ended up going and getting his doctorate in Australia and has stayed in Australia for the rest of his life so far, and is now a professor at a university in Australia. And he's teaching engineers that are in many different areas, but he's teaching physics to them. And it was a really just fascinating journey that he was on. And that was a really fun one, to be able to learn and grow from his story and to share that story, to share that just because you don't have the support and understanding when you enter college, that through mentorship and through the guidance of others, so many opportunities can become available to you.
I'm sure that story helped plenty of your listeners. Now, you mentioned a few minutes ago that you started this from the insight that we're getting a lot of the same questions, and this is a different way of providing answers, but also helping students just in general. So I have to imagine that you aren't just recording these episodes and just letting them live in audio format. You're sitting on such a wealth of great content. How are you then taking what you learn in those conversations and amplifying it to other digital channels?
So we are definitely trying to take advantage of that and utilizing it to be able to share it across the social media channels that we have, to share it on our internal. We have a blog site that is kind of where we put a lot of our evergreen content. So all of the episodes go there. Try to make sure that they are able to pull out the most salient points in the write-ups that we do, to be able to make sure that even if someone doesn't listen to the entire episode, that they get some of the key points so they can take those out for themselves as well. And then we're pushing it out even further. We've tried some ads and pushing specific episodes with specific types of people out to individuals that are on our inquiry list. So, I have somebody that is a physical therapy graduate or a physical therapy student, and we have students that are interested in physical therapy. We can share that episode directly with them and say, here's a resource. I just recently had the director of our program, our physical therapy program, on. Again, another great person that I can then share with prospective students to allow for them to be able to connect with our institution in a little bit different way. So it became and becomes kind of a soft sell for the institution. That scenario is a little more hard sell because I'm pushing the content out to a specific audience. But a lot of the content is more soft sell in the sense that the people that I have on, the majority of them have they've graduated as undergrads and gone somewhere else. They've been graduates of one of our graduate programs, or are currently in one of our graduate programs. So it's a way for people to be able to learn about our institution in a different way.
Yeah. It takes a lot of resources to do this really well. And before we hit record, you shared with me you're kind of a one-man show. You're hosting, you're producing, you're probably finding guests as well. So what have you learned in this last couple of years that if someone's listening to this and they're saying, hey, I want to give this a try, what advice would you give them?
First and foremost, I would say that it takes a lot more time than you think it will. And don't go in thinking that you're going to be able to just record and be done, because there is always an editing process that you have to go through to be able to get to that end point that you're ready to be able to launch, to be able to put the information out there. I never say that to dissuade someone from doing it, but I also want people to have a clear sense of the reality. I would also say that in thinking about looking at this type of work, you need to be consistent. You need to have consistent episodes, and you need to be willing to stick with whatever that schedule is, because your listeners are going to expect that. So if you are going to have a weekly podcast, have a weekly podcast. And that means that you might need to do some batch recording to be able to put episodes, as they say, in the can, to be able to have a number of them ready to go for the month, for a couple months, so that you then work smarter, not harder. And you have an opportunity to be able to get ahead and not feel like you're having to rush, because you never want to feel that way.
That is one of the things I have absolutely learned in my last 6+ months or so of running the Enrollify network, that the more you can get ahead, the easier you can just kind of sleep at night. So last question for you, Chris. Outcomes. How are you measuring success, right? At the end of the day, as you evaluate the time and investment you are putting towards this podcast up against the 100 other things that you are responsible for, what is it that you are measuring? How do you know you're on the right track, and what outcomes are you expecting?
With podcasting, it's a slow growth. It's slow and steady wins the race. So you have to understand that you're not going to go from 0 to 1 million listens overnight, right? So the way that I look at it, I watch the incremental growth. I watch and try to identify what episodes are resonating, and try to glean, okay, what was in that episode to be able to replicate that in the future. How did I push that episode out to get more listens? Can I do something different in the future for other episodes? On our inquiry form, we have something, we ask people how they heard about us. The podcast is now one of the ways that we add to try to figure that out. We also are doing a lot to be able to, as we're talking to students, we're trying to be able to see, like when I do send out a direct email about physical therapy to potential physical therapy students, I can look and see, okay, opens, and then look at, did I get a spike on that episode? So you can't specifically know, oh, they're coming from this or they're coming from that. It's a little bit harder to quantify, but I feel good at the end of the day, and I think that's what is important with this type of work, that the messaging is important and that the messaging is getting out there and people are learning from the message itself. So it's hard. The biggest thing you can quantify is you can watch your listens on specific episodes. You can share that out with your supervisors, your bosses, to be able to do that. But sometimes you're going to have to help them understand what it means, that just because an episode may get 200 downloads, is that a good thing? Well, the way I look at it is, we're sitting in a room right now with maybe 200 seats. How many times do you have an opportunity to be able to have 200 people listening to your voice about a specific topic?
Well, I feel like that's the mic drop moment. So, Chris, if listeners have been inspired, looking to connect with you after they've heard this conversation, where can they find you?
You can send me an email at drclewis@umich.edu. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me at Christopher Lewis, EDD. On LinkedIn, I'm on every other social media platform as well. So feel
fantastic.
Free to reach out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking some time today, Chris. Enjoy the rest of the conference. The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.